I give you the another example of the second article. Okay. The next component of the critical reading response is the synthesis. And this synthesis gets you to take a look at how the two sources, and I'm asking you to do two sources in a critical reading response, connect with each other. And your sources do need to connect. So they should be on the same issue. They could be focused on something slightly different, like in the two articles that I chose for this demonstration. One was on the retailer Nordstrom's and how they are renovating to survive the demise of the large department store. And the other one was on Costco, which sells a variety of products, more so than Nordstrom. But both of them had a similar focus on retailer innovation and how they keep their audience coming back, or they hope to. So your two articles that you do select for your critical reading response really do need to have the same topic. You can have something different. They really do need to be comparable to each other. And I'm asking you to consider this STAR situation we learned in class. So STAR means situation, task, action, and result, and it's usually how a person answers an interview question when asked a behavioral question. But you can consider this when you're reading an article about what is the situation in the article or situations, what's the task that's trying to be accomplished, what action do they take, and what is the result. So if you start there, you can compare the two articles, and that would give you um, the ability to consider how they're similar and how they're different. And then another question is, how well do the stars align? Okay, the components here. So how are they different? And essentially think about what's the effect of that difference. If you're looking at two sources that are solving a similar problem, but they're based on different places, different type of companies, different kinds of experiments, then you're going to try to say, well, why was it different in this case compared to this case? Okay, the synthesis. So similarities and differences. Here's an example of the synthesis on the Kapner and Meyerson article. You can pause and read that. And then the last part here is the response. And this is really critical because this really is the part where you're writing your research paper. You're writing the guts of your research presentation. So here you focus on the situation in your research paper. So if you're doing an issue on a topic, you're going to think about the context of it. I have some students writing papers on the difference between GAPs and IVRs, which is accounting practices. So one of the contexts would be if you're looking at why is the United States dragging their heels on adopting IVRs, you would take a look at probably Fresno County, and ask the question, what's the context of the Central San Joaquin Valley being able to adopt to this different type of accounting. Okay, so you can also take a look at the past, present, and future. What's been happened in the past, what's happened in the present. You can consider limitations like budget. I mean, people have to be able to afford things. Also, the values of the company. I talked about location. What kind of equipment? How many people do they have working for them? That type of thing. So make sure that you're taking a look at the context. And then how does the context compare to the sources that you have used? And the third one, how do the stars align? Again, for your sources as well as for your own project that you are completing. And then what can you plausibly apply from your sources to your topic? So some things you probably will be able to apply, but some things you won't because it's a different situation, a different time, a different economic status, okay? And then what can you recommend? What can you say? Which can you not recommend based on your sources? So the response section really is the culmination of your having researched on credible resources, thoroughly understanding what they say, understanding how they fit together and don't fit together, and then be able to apply them to the topic that you are tackling. because in a research paper, it's your point that the instructor is expecting. It's not a book report on what your sources have said. So I've given you the example of my response on the Kapner and Meyerson articles and a fictional company retailer called Lofstrom's and how it would apply for Lofstrom's to succeed in the Central San Joaquin Valley. And then here is this matter of how to use a critical reading response and how not to. Um, Once you have gone through the learning curve of writing a critical reading response, it is going to equip you for some really critical thinking up front when you start to research. You're going to know how to look for quality sources, for ones that are relevant. You're going to be thinking as you're reading for the elements of the précis statement as well as the synthesis ability. So you're going to read for a purpose. And then you're also going to be considering your issue and how well it helps to supply a result for your issue, or whether or not it works or not. You're going to be able probably to decide, oh gee, this source, I thought it would be good, it's not good anymore. You're going to be able to say, hey, I really need a source that's from the business community or from an academic perspective or from whatever other perspective that you can, and you're missing it. So the critical reading response is going to show you gaps, things that are missing or things that are not needed once you've been able to walk through this process a couple times. It's going to show you how to critically assess your sources. And I think I said this before, how to be able to read your sources and to apply them to the topic that you're writing in your paper. So just to go over what I presented was the purpose of the critical reading response, the sections of a critical reading response, how to use it when you're writing your paper. And I didn't mention it, but I'll come back here and I'll basically say, please do not just string your critical reading responses together in a paper and expect that to be a paper. That is not a paper. The critical reading responses gives you the critical thinking to write your paper. It does not give you the content of your paper. So, and then how to read a source, find a source as you're researching a project.